All right, so I just updated it for US Airways, so hopefully that doesn't, 124 open orders, it looks like it makes a lot more sense. So I'm going to take you guys through just a specific example of how we would clear out the RNO ESCs in the past. So according to this, there's 3 ESCs in the past. If you click on the 3, it's going to take you straight to the RNO open worksheet, and then from there you can look at the data, when you're comfortable with the actions and you know how to close these out. But I'm going to demo the new functionality. If you click on the actual text link, so RNO ESCs in the past, you click on that. Oh, sorry, it's saving. When I did the update, it decided it wanted to save. So it's going to take you straight into this new functionality, which is the actions worksheet. So it's smart enough to know which line to take you to, and the activity here gives you the high level escalate any orders with the ESCs in the past. If you click on the checkbox, it will highlight it in green, and it just kind of keeps your eye on the right line. So we talked about, in the guide, what all these columns mean. So the filter tells you would go to the RNO open column, or worksheet, I'm sorry. You'd go to the ESC indicator column, and then you'd set the filter. And then once you review the data and you kind of take a look at, what's going on, you go back to your actions tab and say, okay, here are the specific steps you would do to close them out. And so we're going to go through all of that in training today for just this activity. So I'm going to click on the 3. So this says there's 3 orders that meet this criteria, and then it tells me which filters to apply. So I'm going to click on the 3. It takes you to RNO open, and then if you scroll to the right, it says you need to filter by the ESC indicator. So I'm going to select ESC in the past too far out, and there's 3 orders that meet this criteria. So the reason why we're looking at the detailed data is because you just kind of have to collect intel on the orders before you, maybe jump the gun and start escalating things. And so it's just helpful to really try to understand them, and just by, glancing at the data quickly. So these 3 orders or units are all out of Tulsa. You have 2 condensers, 1 heat exchanger, 2 that are in gate 3. So it looks like they're close, but, it's 6/25, and it's almost 10 days that they haven't updated the orders. And then you have 1 that's still waiting parts, and it's 10 days old from an ESC perspective. I just look really quick, want to make sure it's not on customer hold, but the tool is smart enough to say that if it is on hold, then it's not an ESC in the past. But I just like double checking. Contract information, it tells you, any blocks, things like that. And then what I also like looking at is just inventory columns to give you what the opportunity is for an exchange. So say you get information back with the ESD and you know that one of these 3 orders or these 3 orders are super important. Well, in the back of your mind, you can think, I have some hope, or I do have like a plan B going on in my head, which is, all right, the condensers, I think there's 2 that are overhauled in 4150. So worst comes to worst, say they give me an ESD of August. I can say, okay, all right, then you need to exchange them for these. Just something to look at. So this step in the process is just getting more information. And by looking at this, my ultimate, I would say, diagnosis is, yeah, I got 3 ESDs in the past that Urbana needs to update, and they missed it in their MOS, and I don't know why. So you're gathering the intel, and then you can click on actions, and it takes you straight back into your actions worksheet that you were in. And then it tells you, okay, here are your next steps. You're going to email your front-end CSR, and you're going to confirm with them that a Z141 Z-task has been opened with ISC. I'm not sure, you guys all should have received the email from Mike Matson and Heath Patrick that emphasized to aerospace what the process is as it relates to Z141. And the process is that CSRs should use the Z141 to task the shop to update an ESD in the past. And the shop has 1 business day to update that date. So rewind from this conversation. I get it. Ultimately, it's the site's responsibility to update ESDs in the past. So Pam Montesante, she's done a ton of work around the new ESD MOS, and we've seen very significant strides in the way of ESD management across aerospace. But that doesn't mean that things don't fall through the cracks. And that is what brings us back into the CBM account health management. You're trying to make sure that your customer account, you have 0 ESDs in the past. So things that slip through the cracks, like these 3 orders, you're trying to get them updated, and you're trying to escalate them to the right people so that people do what they're supposed to do and we stay on top of it. So in this particular case, you email, oh, question? No? Okay. So in this particular case, you email your CSR and you say, hey, these 3 orders have ESDs in the past. Can you confirm that you've created the Z141s? If they haven't created the Z141s, that's a problem because they should be looking at making sure that their ESDs are updated. But they can create the Z141s, and if they don't get a response from ISC within 24 hours, then the CSR should escalate that through their own CSO tiered structure process. And this is, I would say, a little new to them. So I would say once you keep doing it and you keep getting on the CSR for, hey, did you create your Z141s? Did you not get a response back and it's the next day? Did you escalate within your tier process? They'll get more familiar with it and they'll get better at it. Now, there could be the case where you email your CSR and you say, hey, did you create the Z141s? And you don't get a response back. If you don't get a response back, that's a different escalation path because you're escalating now within CSO because you didn't get a response back. With our new FENS, FEN-BEND, and our pod structure, I would say the CBMs, you guys should have a very close relationship with your front-end CSR, so you can IM them, email them, call them. So I would hope that it doesn't take more than 24 hours for them to respond to you. But if they don't, you can go ahead and click on this CSR contact escalation matrix. And so it pulls up how to find your front-end CSR and then what the escalation path is from an RNO standpoint. So on the left-hand side are your customers. So say it's Lion Air. And then you would say, okay, here's my front-end CSR. You would email IM May. And then if May doesn't respond back within a day, then you are going to escalate to Jessie. And if she doesn't respond in 2 hours, then you're going to escalate it to Meizu, which it's a different May. And then to your site coordinator, who's the focal Bill Schimmel, and then ultimately to the workstream leader. And the whole escalation process, once the CSR doesn't respond back, the entire escalation process happens within, I think it's like 5 hours. And so I would just say, if you stay on top of it and really use the escalation process, I guarantee you'll get an answer. But if you kind of send the first escalation to Jessie and you forget about it for a day and you don't escalate further, then it's going to stall out. All right, so we looked at the escalation matrix, but that's really all you do. You use the notes section for more information. So in this case, ESDs are complex, in my opinion. If the unit's on customer hold, then the site's not obligated to update the ESDs. But once it comes off of hold, they have to update it within 24 hours. So if the unit's abandoned, BER, things like that, IAC is not obligated to update the dates. And in the notes column, you'll get all of that information so that you fully understand how ESDs are updated. Now, the exact steps that I just went through, where I looked at the homepage, the My Actions, I clicked on the text, which brought me to the action worksheet, the filters, we looked at the intel, then we came back and we looked at the steps and the escalation matrix. The cool thing is if you click on the training icon, it'll open up YouTube and it'll give you just the video of exactly the steps I went through. And it'll do that for nearly every single one of these actions. So any activity or action that has a movie icon, it has the step-by-step instructions on how you would close that activity, which is pretty cool. So I went through this specific example, and the idea is you would go to your actions and you would, look at each one that has a value and you'd close them out. So RNO ESDs, where they're misaligned with the customer request date by 15 days, you click on the text. It takes you to action 4. It tells you what filters to set. It tells you what the steps are. It tells you who to escalate to. So just exactly what we did with ESDs in the past. Now, on the same action tab, these are the daily activities. The weekly and monthly activities, if you click on the hyperlink here, this takes you into your weekly, monthly actions. So let's just look at the first one. This is what, so Michelle, Don, and John, and Dave, they've all looked at this and they put the input into what the weekly, monthly would look like from a customer account health management perspective. So the first one, warranty claim trends. Does a customer claim warranty 100% of the time? I mean, this is, what's going on from a warranty perspective. So today, could you do that analysis? Yeah. Is it that easy to collect the data and to really, understand what you're looking at? That's where the challenge is. Is it doable? Yes. But this is where, we need to start looking at, what we're asking weekly and monthly, and then creating the right tool set so that CBMs, again, have the data right at their fingertips. And that's something that we're working on, and we hope to deploy late July. But we wanted you guys to have the visibility of what weekly and monthly would look like from an account health management perspective. All right, I'm going to go back to the home page and then take us back to the My Actions, but that is it in terms of the demo. Does anyone have any questions? Can be related to the demo or anything else.
Lisa?
Yes.
Fredo here again.
Yeah.
Buy-in from Infosys on this process for the email we got yesterday from Dan.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So let me give everyone the backstory. So the backstory with the Z141 Z-TAS. The Z141 is created by the CSR to task ISC to do something or provide information back. So historically, we use that task to get information from ISC to provide back to the customer. You'll notice from the email that came out from Mike Madsen and Heath Patrick, they don't want to change the functionality or the intent of the Z141. So they still want to use it whenever we need to escalate something to ISC, and they have to give us something back. But what Heath and Mike are saying in the email is that ESD fidelity is like one of the top things on their radar screen. So CSRs should make sure that for ESDs in the past, they leverage the Z141 process, which obligates ISC to update the ESD within 24 hours. That is the only mechanism that we have from a very, formal process to update ESDs. Otherwise, if we didn't have that process, it would be, okay, I gotta, call Joe Wright over in the main work center, cell 123, to give me an ESD. And that's just not a sustainable process, given that, Infosys, many are newer to the Honeywell structure. So, Alfredo, I would say that the buy-in for a CSR to use a Z141 to update ESDs in the past is firmly in place in terms of, yes, we are using it. Now, is it firmly in place in terms of CSRs all understand what that means from a daily perspective, like on their desk, and how that translates into work? That I'm not sure, and we need to work out. So I would say...
Hey, Lisa, just to reiterate, that's something we'll absolutely make sure is clear. That is the process that needs to be followed. And so we'll work the change management side of CSO to ensure that that's happening.
Yes. So what I would say from a CBM perspective is stick with the steps that we've provided, which are you take the orders that are in the past and you may do a copy and paste and send those orders to your front end CSR and say, hey, did you create the Z141s that are asking the sites to update these ESDs? If you haven't, I want you to create the Z141s. And if you don't get an answer in one day, because I'm going to check tomorrow, then I need to make sure that you've escalated it within your CSO tiered structure. And if that's not happening, then we have other problems, and you let us know, and we need to address that. But it's kind of one of those things that it sounds like this, big process, but unless we start using the process, we're not going to make headway.
Hey, Lisa, just on that, my understanding is that the SLA the CSRs have is they have 24 hours to respond, not just to customers, but to us. Mm-hmm. So we might ping them and say, hey, please, engage and pursue Z141, but they might respond back and make that happen within 24 hours, not 2 hours or faster.
Yeah, no, you would escalate to CSO. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. So from a CSR perspective, if the CSR doesn't respond back to you within 24 hours, then you can escalate up to their supervisor.
Okay. All right, so we're giving them 24 hours to respond. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you have something really urgent, again, I am and ping them. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys, so much for your time. We had a good conversation, good questions, good discussion. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email me or ping me, and we're always here.
Yeah.